Marc Jackson was there on the Sixers post-game show last night as taking a look at this team. They have been struggling in the month of February, and last night TJ admitted it's hard to win a game with without this Embiid guy, but they able to do it last night, Marc. And, it kind of shows that this team has taken such big strides this year from where they were. They lose that game last year and probably earlier in the year. But they've kind of persevered even though they've lost a couple of games here. You see this team growing up and learning, even though they've been struggling.
I agree with you 100%. This team has developed a tough line coding on themselves, learning to fight and win. And I think a lot of that got to go to Brett Brown for allowing them to play through their mistakes. They're a young team. They got some tough guys on there, and even without Embiid, they're getting it done. That was a big win last night, coming off the loss the previous night to the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, one of the things, what's your impression of TJ McConnell in terms of where he fits and what his role is in the NBA?
TJ, to me, TJ's a bona fide backup in the NBA. But, as of now, it has to be a start. Him and Sergio kind of split those minutes. But as of late, TJ has been really performing well, and he's a tough guy. You can tell he's a PA guy because he's definitely a tough guy, and a lot of the things he do just come from pure will, not necessarily skills, pure will. And he's getting the job done. He's just really developing, and Coach Brown said something in preseason about TJ. Say he's my guy. He's my kind of guy. He's a blue collar kind of guy who will do anything you ask him to. Run through a brick wall, he'll do it several times. And that's TJ's proven himself.
Marc Jackson's with us, of course, former Sixer, former Temple Owl, part of the Sixers' pre- and post-game show last night on Comcast Sportsnet, and the Sixers get that win. You know what I found interesting, Marc, was this is a team that has the number 1 overall pick not playing, the number 3 overall pick not playing, the number 3 overall pick sitting on the bench last night in crunch time, and the number 6 overall pick sitting on the bench in crunch time. Nerlens and Ja both not on the floor, in the biggest moments, and then 2 other guys injured. It starts to show of over the years they have found some pieces to kind of, fit into this, and you hope that the high draft choices carry them to another level. But it has showed, again, the depth that they would have lost that game in the past when one of those guys was out.
I agree with you, 100%. They lost that game in the previous 3 years, but learning to win. We must admit Joel Embiid being in lineup briefly as he is, he gives his team a kind of a motivation and confidence that started building to a winning environment and winning atmosphere and thinking they could do it. So even when he sits out, they still go in there, they play hard, and they got some pieces that can help them win when they're playing against kind of the middle of the pack or the lower echelon teams because they play with pure heart. They fought that game. After the skirmish between Serge Ibaka and New Orleans, Orlando went a 7-0 run, and the 76ers answered right back, with their run. So that's going to let you know that they're not this young team that you can bully up on. They actually play with heart. They play with a chip on their shoulder. And I agree with you. Having New Orleans and Jahlil on the bench and crunch time to win it, that just goes to prove the development they've had from other guys, especially my boy, Dario Saric. He's coming through and playing big for them.
Marc, what did you see happen in that skirmish? You mentioned the Noel skirmish, and I think afterwards Noel had the funny quote where he says, I'm not sure what he was saying. I need to take some lessons in that accent. But what did you see in that skirmish? Was he standing up for himself, or was he in the wrong?
Serge hitting with a cheap left hand, him with a left-hand jab. Him with a Bernard Hopkins left-hand jab. That's what it looked like to me. Plain as day, when they showed it from the reverse angle from behind Serge Ibaka's head, you can see it clear as day. Clear as day. So I would react the same way Nerlens had. I probably wouldn't talk so much. I probably went out there swinging. But to each his own. But Serge hitting with that left, and I was really surprised. Even when they reviewed it, it was only a double technical, and maybe not ejection for Serge because he did hit him with a left jab.
Spending some time talking Sixers basketball with Marc Jackson. And Marc, I also know that you mentioned Dario's your guy. What's your impression of him so far, and what do you see his role being down the stretch as this team develops?
I've been watching Dario for years. I've been watching Dario since he was back in Savona playing. I'm starting for his local national team when he was 16 years old. So, and we used my rookie year in Europe when I played in Turkey. I had a coach named Yasmin Rapeshka who's been really prominent in Dario's life and was one of his national team coaches and the coach since he was 16. So I've been watching. I travel to Europe back for every year to watch EuroLeague basketball because I love the style of play, and I've been watching this kid for a long time. I like him then. I like him now. I really love the way he's improved his ball handling skills and his ability to get to the rim. One thing about this guy, he may be a rookie in the NBA, but this young man he is a veteran. He's had some battle. He's battle-tested and proven in the European ranks. People could say, "Oh, that's not the NBA." You know what? You're right. It's not the NBA. The European EuroLeague game is much more physical than the NBA is nowadays, and he is battle-tested and battle-proven. And his development, it's going to be real interesting when Ben Simmons gets into the lineup. Ersan Ilyasova, what do they want to do with this gentleman who's playing great basketball this season? If you play him, you sign him, you keep him. If you do that, that's going to stagnate Dario. But Dario progression in such a short time is really big time to me, and I think he's a key part of the 76ers' future, in my opinion.
Is the NBA game becoming too much like the European game?
Well, one thing about the European game, a lot of people may see because they hear things about it, but it's more of the European game is more, I think George Karl mentioned it when he's back with the Denver Nuggets, saying he wanted the game to be more like European soccer, not the ball sticking in no one's hands, getting the ball out your hands quickly, making quick decisions, passing, cutting, moving, and that's what the game is now becoming. But one thing that the Europeans believe that they don't want a team averaging 25 points. They want one player averaging 25 points. They believe in having 6 guys averaging 13 points. So that's something that the NBA game I don't know if it ever get to because of the kind of athletes and basketball players we have here, but it's still something that could entice the coaches and maybe get down to it when you don't have a bunch of superstars on your team. Guess what? San Antonio Spurs has proven that to be a great thing for this league and the culture of the game, and it's doing wonders.
Guys like Jahlil Okafor, they seem out of place anymore in today's NBA. Mike always talks on the show here with me about a guy like Karl Malone. He wouldn't fit in today's game. Would you agree with that assessment?
I disagree. I hear that phrase being thrown around a lot because everybody watches Steph Curry basketball, shoot 3 or nothing. Yeah, that's fine and dandy because the guy who shoots the lights out the ball. But if you can scoring is not that easy in the NBA. Let's just make it plain and simple. When you got a guy you can throw that ball to who can get you 18 points a game, requires a double team. So people who saying that kind of play is not nowhere in the NBA now, that's not true. Karl Malone would still do what he does, still average 22, 23 points a game. If you can score, and if one person cannot stop you, require a double team, you still are a mismatch nightmare for any opponent. So I still think Karl Malone, his name would still kill the NBA. Just like I think Jahlil Okafor, when given the proper opportunity, is going to go back averaging 17, 18 points. And going to have to require double teams. They must space the floor, create different situations for other players to get open looks. Don't get hooked on this shooting a 3 and letting it all be said and done. That's not the game that everybody plays, just quite a few.
Marc Jackson's with us, former Sixer, former Temple Owls. Of course, you see him now on Comcast Sportsnet doing the pre- and post-game stuff. I think you bring up the point about Okafor then. He obviously doesn't fit here, right? I mean, are you down with that?
We have Embiid. As long as the 76ers have Embiid in the roster, when you have a player with that kind of talent, respectfully, Jahlil Okafor is a very good player, but, Joel Embiid's on a whole other level. He's a superstar. And let's just call it how we see it. He is a very, very good player in his league. He's a franchise changer in his league. So as long as you have him in the roster, Jahlil Okafor is expendable. So he can do things that what other teams need. But right now in this team, as long as they have Embiid, Jahlil is not going to be in the foreseeable future.
So why do you think that he has, even like when Embiid's not there, he doesn't seem like he's the same guy that he was as a rookie? I mean, he scored 17 points a night. He was a load down to handle. He was what you said. You had to double team him. He offensively seems like his game has regressed in year number 2.
No, I don't necessarily think it's regressed. I think his numbers as far as minutes played per game, and the best thing you can do for a player, NBA player, is be consistent on when they're going to play, whether it's off the bench or whether it's starting. But when you're in and out the lineup, when you don't play for 10 games, but then you play for 4, then you start with a guy, then you don't start, then you come off the bench. All that adds up. It's not easy to get plugged in and just come in here and just go to work. It's not easy. So in Jahlil's respect, it's difficult for him to get going. But if you get him in an environment where he knows he's going to play 30 minutes a game, where he knows whether it's coming off the bench or starting, when he's getting in the game, it's a different story. I think he'll go back to average of 17, maybe more. He's not really regressed. I think that this team has changed, and they don't need his offensive impact like they did in previous years.
Yeah, that was my question, Mark, is why they're not using him more then with Embiid out, and if it does take a while to get him warmed up, why aren't his minutes increasing rather than decreasing?
He's a post player. He's a post player coach, and it's not easy. So let's establish a game like this. It's easy for a guy to shoot a bunch of jump shots. It's easy to stand there. I can bring my mother, who's 62 years old, and she can get you 10 for 15 from 22 feet. So, I mean, you just stand there and shoot jumpers. It's easy to shoot a jumper, but it's hard. It's footwork. It's skill. It's the knowledge of low post to get going. And it's not just one player to be plugged in there. You need everybody on the same page. You have a low post player who's the man in double teams. Everybody has to be on the same page for our spacing. So his minutes are decreasing because Brett Brown feels as though he has Ersan, he has Dario. He feels as though he wants to go with the small ball and a lot of things. Nerling is a pick and roll type of player. You have to have certain pieces around a player like Jahlil Okafor to get him going. So his minutes decreasing because he hasn't been consistently given an opportunity night in, night out to prove that he's still that same player. So as long as and remember, Embiid is on the roster. So as long as Embiid is on the roster, we always going to find something wrong with Jahlil Okafor. This is the truth. When you have Joel Embiid out there who's a game changer. You just do. Even when he's not playing, he's on the bench, and you look at it like, man, this guy's in the game. He get 30 right now. You're not even caring about Jahlil Okafor. It's respectful.
Mark, what is your take on Noel's fit in the future here? Do you find him as a guy that they should figure out a way to keep? I mean, to me, he does something. He has an elite skill as a defender. His offense, obviously, but they don't need him to be an offensive minded. So does he fit because of that skill set, or would you also search around for the best deal for him as well?
Great question. Nerlens is a pick and dive kind of player. He's similar to Amari Stoudemire in Phoenix because he dives, and his athleticism and his ability to catch alley-oops and finish around the rim is a skill. Believe it or not, people said they would just call them athletes, but now it's a skill because you have to run a pick and roll. He dives. You got to bring help from somewhere. And when the 76ers have Nick Sauce out there, when you got Ersan Ilyasova out there, when you actually have Sergio out there who can hit a jumper, you have to pick up that dive man, and then the skip pass is open for a wide open three. So does he fit? I think he'd be a great backup to Embiid. I think he'd be a great backup. But you have to ask yourself, is he going to be willing to accept that role with the kind of money he's going to demand this offseason? So you have to ask yourself like that. He is a fit as long as he's okay with being a backup. But I don't know, is he at his young age and with the money he's going to demand this summer wanting to accept that role? So they might have to move him too, because they do have a kid on the bench named Holmes who's proven himself to be a very good backup five guy in his league. He'd be a very good backup at a much cheaper rate to Joel Embiid on the 76ers roster.
Right, that's the guy that they kind of can say, look, we can move Okafor and Noel, see when we get back, because we trust this guy enough, and he only needs to play 12 to 18 minutes a night. Because, Mark, do you anticipate that after this season is done, that Joel will be able to handle the 35, 38 starter minutes back-to-back? Is that your hope to see for him by next year?
That's my hope. That's my hope, and I will hope for the 76ers perspective, too. That's their hope, too. That's what they're being heavily cautious. They're saying, okay, he can play 9 back-to-backs, hold him out of some practice, let him get going, and let's see if he holds up for the year. Then next year, let's let him loose. I think they're just being overly cautious of their franchise player, and deservedly so. He's proven that he's a special talent. Don't rush this guy. He's had 2 foot surgeries. It's an injury that's proven that it can reoccur. We don't want to mention names like Ilgauskas and things like that, but you have to be cautious with him. This season, what are they playing for? When he was playing in this month of January, they was pushing for playoffs. But now they're sitting back and saying, is it good to push for playoffs now and risk injuring this guy, or letting him get his minutes, letting him get his games, and then unleash him next year, and just hopefully he can just stay physically sound throughout the course of the year, playing back-to-backs, playing the whole year, playing 30 to 36 minutes a game, stuff like that. I just think they're being cautious with him, and I agree, to be honest with that. Be overly cautious with him, and just understand it's not about today. It's about the future for the 76ers.
Yeah, Mark, you used the word cautious. Are you okay the way that they've handled this the last 2 weeks? And if you are being cautious, would you let him play in All-Star Weekend after holding him out?
That's the question. Am I okay with the way they handle it? I'm not a front office executive there, but to me, I think the Colangelos come in here and they have to realize what the 76ers fans have been dealing with for the last 2 years. They have to always keep that in the back of their mind. So 76ers fans, and I'm a Philadelphia native, you know that. So I don't just work for CSN Philly. I am a Philadelphia fan, always been that way and always will be. And my children are too. So I want to see Embiid on the floor. I want to see Ben Simmons on the floor. But I have to sit back and understand that they have to be cautious with these guys because these are two franchise-changing players. What I'm not comfortable with is the wording. They're telling fans and they're telling media, stuff like that. The Colangelos, Brett Brown, I don't think they're necessarily on the same page for things like that. And I think that adds up, and that's causing media, that's causing fans to be kind of frustrated with the situation and what's going on. So I think they could have handled that a little different. But as far as them holding him out, they're being overly cautious. They said he wasn't right. He played in Houston, had some pain after that, and they held him out. They don't want to risk it, So, but if he goes in All-Star Weekend and does anything, I think that's a black eye for the organization because the way they've handled him resting, if you're resting, he can't do nothing All-Star. That's just my humble opinion.
Mark Jackson, a Temple grad like me, a Philadelphia native. Until today, Mark, I didn't realize this. We share the same birthday, 4 years apart, but happy birthday to you about a month ago.
You're a great guy, man.
You're younger, Mark. You're younger, by the way. You're younger than Pete is over here, but
just by a couple of years.
Just a couple of years.
4 to be exact.
I'm the young guy of this conversation right now, and my birthday's like 2 weeks after your guys, but I'm the young guy of this conversation. But yeah, Temple grad, you played for the Sixers, as you said. You're Philadelphia guy, so you know that the fans, want to see they've been supportive of this for the most part. There are some people that think
for the most part they have.
Right. Yeah. Most places would have just bailed and said, this is ridiculous. But a lot of people have been supportive. So, they want to hear the front office be truthful with them. Is this guy hurt? Is there a problem? Same with Ben Simmons, right? Like, it seems that they're just so unwilling to be like, hey, you've been patient with us. We'll be up front with you. Look, Ben Simmons isn't going to play, or he might play, or it just seems that the way that they've handled these last couple of weeks has been a little. I mean, after 3 years of getting the runaround.
I agree with you 100%. And I think Colangelos is their first year here, so we have to always keep that in perspective too. That it is their first year here, so they have to understand and keep. And I know they're not trying to. How can I say this? I know necessarily they understand that they're trying to do what's best for the franchise, but they got to understand Philadelphia is a different market of people. You can't just throw smoke in the air and expect us to decipher through the ashes. You have to be honest with us, because if we call you on that lie, it's going to be some issues. And then the support can lead. So I hope that they understand that and they always remember that. But I do know, and I hope the Philly fans know, that they have to be overly cautious and protective of the future of the franchise. It's not about this year. We're not playing for a championship this year. Philadelphia 76ers are playing for the future, and next year, if things go the way it's planned, they have a big future ahead of them.
Spoken like a man, and listen to John Chaney say there was a chicken for every pot and all kinds of sayings. Chaneyisms, winning is an attitude that we used to get all the time on the Temple campus. Mark Jackson with us here on the Sports Match.
Yeah, Mark, and it's funny. He talked about John Chaney and how tough he is. You got Brett Brown trying to win basketball games, and some nights he seems like he's used that word experiment a lot, and that's hard for an NBA coach to get his footing when he's experimenting, night in and night out.
Yeah, Coach Brett Brown has not been dealt a fair hand of cards. I'm not a gambler, but if I were, I would be kind of frustrated. I think somebody's trying to get me with the hand of cards you dealt me. So, he don't know who's in, who has the green light, who has the yellow light, who's red light. They just don't know. He's been dealt a bad hand of cards. But you know what? he is flourishing in the role because his development of all these players is showing. His confidence in these players is showing. And I think if I'm a player and I'm playing for Coach Brown, to me, I feel as though he has my back.
So you like what he's done. You like what he's done as the coach of this team, even though a lot of losses. Some people would say, well, if you're a coach, you lose this many games. Don't you eventually enough's enough? I mean, there have been people who have been on that side of the rock.
Great, yes, it has. It has. But you have to understand. You have to see. Okay, he's losing games, but what hand has he dealt with to win with? So we have to always keep that in perspective. The phrase we're throwing around gypsies, as far as all the movement that's been going on in the organization as far as players, you have to keep that. Can he win with guys that's in and out? Can he win with guys on 10 days? Can he win with guys that will never make another NBA roster? It's very difficult. This season, I think he's been given an exceptional talent, Joel Embiid, and he's given some other guys to play around Joel. Dario Saric is doing well, a great trade, getting inside of Silva. And I think he's been getting better pieces to help him win. Is he perfect in play calling sometimes? I scratch my head at some things. I would say no, but I do think he's on the right path. So I give him a clean slate. I believe you give him some talent and see what he can do with talent, because talent wins. I have an AAU youth program in Tampa, Florida, and what I tell my kids, I can give you all the X's and O's, but it's about Billy and Joes. I got to have the players to perform. So it's just like Coach. He has to have the players to perform. But when he has those players, then we can start sitting down and pen and piece of paper and say, okay, what can he do? Can he win games with this talent? And if not, then we have an issue. But until we get a consistent rotation on that team, night in and night out, that's the only way you can truly judge him. Because the greatest coach of all time basketball-wise, Popovich, to me, you put him in this same situation. When he doesn't know who's going to be playing, who's in, who's out, he don't know what kind of talent he has. It's going to be difficult for the great Pop to win. It is, and he'll tell you that. So when we get a consistent basis of players that's able to play, then we have a different story. It's not on minutes restrictions. Then you're able to play. Then we can judge him. But right now, I don't think we can judge him on the past amount of talent he's had.
So, Marc, would you call this season a success regardless of how the rest of it goes?
That's a good question. What I call a success, being a Philadelphia native, only way I would call it a success is we went to a playoffs with a banged up roster. Then I'll say it was a success. That's me, and that's me being hard, and that's me being a North Philadelphia. That's what I would say. But a success is if Ben Simmons can play this season.
So you want to see him on the floor? You want to see?
I want to see him on the floor.
Simmons play. Okay,
I do, because they keep him out the whole year. Even though he's probably healed. You look at his bone graft, and I haven't seen him, but because I had the same surgery twice. So you see his bones. If it says he's healthy, and they said, well, let's see what happens, let's play him. I would like to see that. But if they hold him out for the year, no matter what the Sixers do, I want to see a success because you don't see what your number one draft pick has given your team.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see him, if he can get on that court, see how him and Embiid mesh, and then you get a better picture of what you need to do in the offseason. Marc Jackson, Sixers pre- and post-game live on Comcast Sportsnet. Of course, a former Sixer and Temple grad, and shares the same birthday as one Peter Brooks Thompson over there. Marc,
that's right.
It's always good to talk hoops with you, pal.
Great, guys. Great talking to you. Go Sixers.